I have been asked about the JFK crash. So, here is the JFK crash. 2 words. Autopilot. 2 words. When I teach a new student, and I get a new student, the best maneuver you can do is touch and goes. Why? It has climbs, descents, level off, turns. It has everything in that one maneuver. So your basic lesson, you're gonna take off and for 30 minutes you're gonna do maneuvers, and you're gonna come back in your last 30 minutes, you're gonna do touch and goes. Why hour? Most students, they can't take more than an hour. After 45 minutes or an hour, their brain's just spent. Now, after they build up a tolerance, they can take a longer training. So when I take a person up, the first time, every single flight, I spend 10 minutes on the autopilot. 10 minutes on the autopilot. Why? If you get in trouble, if you get upside down or sideways or lost or need to collect your thoughts, just hit the autopilot. Now, all autopilots are not the same. They're basically the same, but they're not completely the same. Some of them, as soon as you turn them on, they go into roll mode, which they level off and they stop on a heading. That's called roll mode. Some of them you turn them on and they just come on. Then you have to hit roll mode. But if you turn it on and you hit heading mode, the plane is going to start turning to wherever your heading bug is. On your DG, there's a knob you can turn. That's your heading knob. You always want to keep that synced. What I mean by that is you hit it and it'll jump to the top. So I don't care what you're going to do with the autopilot. You always sync the bug first on your heading mode. So I teach my students. I make them do this 10 times. Every time we fly. Okay, let's turn the autopilot on. Sync the heading bug, autopilot on. What mode do you want? Roll mode is going to level the plane and stop your altitude. Level your altitude, level your wings, stop on a heading. Heading mode, the plane is going to turn wherever the heading bug is set. If you hit heading bug and you're flying 360 and the heading bug says 180, as soon as you hit it, the plane's going to start turning. And you might not notice it turning. You have to keep the heading bug synced. Sync the heading bug, then turn the autopilot on. Now, what's the reason for this? Starting off, I just teach them basic operations. As we get further into training, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, then I mess the plane up and I tell them how to fix it. As we get further, I mess the plane up. I don't say nothing. I just see if they're going to learn how to fix it. They got to learn how to fix it without me telling them. This FedEx retired pilot brought me his daughter. She had 75 hours. She's been to 3 different flight schools, numerous instructors. He wanted me to teach her. All right, we go flying. She's in the left seat, I'm in the right seat, he's in the back seat. We go up and do maneuvers. Before everything, she look at me. She look at me. I have to tell her everything to do. We get in the pattern, she look at me. Okay, do the gump check. She look at me. Okay, turn base. She look at me. Okay, turn final. Why are you looking at me? You got 75 hours. You got a couple of hours of solo. You've been to 3 flight schools. You've got to come to a point where you can make these decisions yourself. Some people can fly great. As long as you got an instructor in there with you, they got their safety margin over here, they can do great. Some students, as long as I'm telling them what to do, they can do great. Some people can't fly by themselves. Flying is serious. It's not riding the go-karts at the putt-putt place. Flying is serious. Your lesson is serious. So every student, I teach them that autopilot. If you get disoriented, and mixed up, hit the autopilot. If you get tired and frustrated, sometimes you just gotta not hand fly for a minute. Hit the autopilot. The autopilot is your friend, but the autopilot can also be your big enemy. You've got to learn that autopilot. If your instructor is scared of the autopilot and doesn't know how to work the autopilot, that's bad for your student. If you're a student, you get in an airplane and you see that nice autopilot down there, and your instructor never teaches you the autopilot, or he says, oh, don't touch that, it'll get you in trouble. You need to get a new instructor. The autopilot is your friend. That's your friend. But you got to know how to work it. I take my students, I say, okay, we just got in a big cloud. What are we going to do? If he turns himself, it's easy to get in a cloud and get disoriented. You have to trust your instruments. But if you don't have a lot of time looking at your instruments, you can get spatial disorientation, and you think you're up, you think you're flying straight and you're flying down. So you have to learn to trust your instruments. A new student doesn't have the experience to do that. But if you hit autopilot on, roll mode, let it level. Okay, how do we get out of this cloud? Take the heading bug, turn it 180 degrees, hit heading. The autopilot is going to slowly turn you 17.5 degrees, turn back out of the cloud, or the thunderstorm, or the bad airspace. Now, another thing I teach them, how do you find the airport? What if you get lost? How do you find the airport? You got an autopilot there and a GPS. I show them how to work that GPS and work that autopilot. How to put a route in there from the day one. Day one you learn that. You go over that every lesson. Okay, we're lost. What are we going to do? Well, before we took off, we had a route in the GPS. Okay, all I have to do is hit autopilot on, hit nav, and the airplane's going to turn around and go back to the airport. Every single lesson we do that. We go over that. After we get some extensive learning with that autopilot, then we spend a whole lesson on it. Nothing but that autopilot. How to make a turn. How to go to the airport. And you know what? I teach them how to do an instrument approach as a VFR pilot in case they get an emergency. Even if I'm not talking about it's thunderstorm and raining and the weather's down to 200 foot. If it's just puffy clouds and marginal and they're a little bit scared, I show them how to go back to the airport, how to hit approach, the runway, autopilot, and let the plane at least get them on a final to save their lives. You got to know how to work that autopilot. You got to understand it. You got to be comfortable with it. If your instructor is scared of that autopilot, you need to get a new instructor. If your instructors are screaming and hollering and grabbing the yoke, and you need to get a new instructor. I spend a few minutes every flight with that autopilot. And as we progress, I make little simulated emergencies. I take some paper and start covering stuff up on the screen. Okay, now what are you going to do? Well, your autopilot is your friend. On either heading mode or nav. If you get lost, autopilot on, nav, the airplane's going to turn and go back to the airport. If the weather's iffy, what runway we're going to land runway 36, okay? Hit the approach for 36 and the autopilot will take you there. Now you're going to have to descend down a little bit. So you've got to teach your students how to work the autopilot. It's your friend. You can't be scared of it. Your autopilot can eliminate 80% of your stress in an airplane. So all my students are going to learn how to do the autopilot. Some of them are a little bit different, but you're going to learn that autopilot day one. You're going to learn how to use the autopilot. Now, back to John F. Kennedy. This is some of his hours that I wrote down. He had 6 instructors over 6 years. He had 47 hours during that time, and he had 1 hour solo. Now, 6 instructors over 6 years, That's not necessarily bad because it's hard to keep an instructor. Basic instructor wants to use you to get some hours and go to the airlines. They're not all interested in you getting your license. They're interested in getting hours. I've had numerous students that had 20, 25 hours that I get them. They can't taxi, can't talk on the radio, can't take off, can't land, can't do a turn. Why? Because their instructor is just using them to fly around to build hours. So 6 instructors over 6 years is not necessarily bad. Now, JFK is a very wealthy man. How can he be busy? Oh, he's busy. If you've got the money, you can go and rent an airplane and an instructor, get your license in 1 month and be done with it. 6 instructors over 6 years. He's not serious. Flying lessons are serious. Airplanes are serious. If you're going to take 1 lesson a month, you're not learning anything. You're going 1 step forward, 5 steps backwards. 1 step forward, 5 steps backwards. Instructors, if you got a student that shows up once a month, he's not serious. You got to know that. If he shows up once a month, when am I going to solo? When am I going to solo? He is a dangerous, and he's a liability. He's a dangerous student, and he's a liability to you. So you got to watch out for that. JFK had 6 instructors over 6 years. During that time, he had 47 total hours. So basically, 12 hours a year? And he had 1 hour solo. Now, finally, he went to Flight Safety International, and you know how I feel about Flight Safety International. He went there and got his private pilot license. That is the best instruction you're going to get on the planet. You're not, even if you went to me, and you know how I feel about me. I like me. But if you go to Flight Safety International, you're going to get better instruction than if you went to Glenn. I said it. I know it. You didn't think I could say it, but I said it. JFK went to Flight Safety, and he finished, his private pilot license. If you got money and you got time and you go to Flight Safety International, if you just go there cold turkey, they're going to put you in a class with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 other students. If you've got the money and the time, you're going to get a one-on-one instructor. And when you got a one-on-one instructor, he has your full attention. That's the best way to learn. JFK went to Flight Safety, and he finished his private pilot license, which is just super. So after he finished, I don't know if he bought a 182. He was flying a 182. He had 179 hours total time in a 182, 65 with an instructor. He went back to Flight Safety to do his instrument. You can go to Flight Safety and do your instrument in 2 weeks. There's people that will come to your city and teach you your instrument in 10 days. But you got to study. He already had his instrument written test passed. But he took half the training and then he left. Oh, my word. Flight Safety is like the Mecca, the best place in the world to go. Airplanes, training. I mean, you train all day. You go to the hotel, you study. You're not bothered with outside things. You just fly and learn, fly and learn. There's nothing better. Going to Flight Safety is like moving to the Philippines and retiring. That's what it's like. Flight Safety is the best. If you've got the money and the time, even for your private pilot license, that's the place to go. So he took the instrument course halfway through. He quit and went back home. Then he bought a 1995 Piper Saratoga. A 1995 Piper Saratoga. While he had that Saratoga, he had 3 different instructors. They all said he was a good pilot. Of course they're going to say that. They're instructors. They're flying around with a rich guy that's tipping them good, that's buying them lunch, and they're flying around in a nice big Saratoga. They're tired of flying in a little 150, 152, 172. Now they're in a big Saratoga. A Saratoga is a point A to point B airplane. It's not a training airplane. Can you train in it? Yeah, you can train in it. Is your insurance going to be higher? Yeah, it's going to be higher. A Saratoga is a high-performance, complex airplane, retractable gear, constant speed prop. It holds 6 people. It's got big seats. It's got a space between the seat. It's a nice, big airplane. I mean, it's not a King Air or a jet, but as far as a single piston airplane, that's a great airplane, but it's a point A to point B airplane. So he bought this Saratoga. Now let's talk about the Saratoga. That airplane had a nice autopilot. It had nice instruments. It was stable, big wing, carried a lot of fuel, constant speed prop. I mean, that's the great airplane. But you've heard of these airplanes called doctor killers. These rich doctors buy these high-performance airplanes and they fly them once a month with the autopilot. And the autopilot is what kills them because they don't know how to work it and set it up, and they get themselves into trouble and weather. And those planes are called doctor killers because rich people buy them. They don't get the training. They fly it once or twice a month, and the plane kills them. The Piper Saratoga is it's not a training airplane. It's a point A to point B airplane. He bought that airplane. He had 3 different instructors. Some of the instructors said he could work the autopilot, and then one instructor said, well, the autopilot needed a lot of attention working it. Well, no, it doesn't need a lot of attention working it. It's like 6 buttons. It's either on or off. It's either roll mode, heading mode, or nav mode, or approach mode. Your autopilot is your friend. So I said all that to say this. He bought this Piper Saratoga. Now, he had been to Martha's Vineyard like 35 times, half of the time with an instructor, but I believe that was in a 182. In the Piper Saratoga, I think he'd been there just a handful of times. When he bought the Piper Saratoga, he had 310, the day he crashed, he had 310 hours total, but he only had 36 in that Saratoga. That's a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time. So 310 hours total time, if you're a serious pilot in a Saratoga, it's doable. That's okay. But you got to know your limitations. He flew the plane over the water at night, marginal weather. He doesn't have an instrument rating. That was out of his lane. He should have waited. How many times have I said, wait? They were supposed to take off at 6:30. Everybody's late. He's working late. They took off at 8:30. The weather was going down. It was getting worse. So he's just adding more trouble. How many times do these pilots rush and just add more trouble to themselves? The day before, he just got his cast off his leg. He had a broken ankle. They said he was loading luggage on crutches. His business was in trouble. His magazine was in trouble. He was stressed over that. Him and his wife were going to marriage counseling. There was a lot of issues going on. You can't fly an airplane upset with your wife, mad at your kids, worrying about money. The night before, he went to a baseball game to 2 o'clock in the morning. They said he only had 5 hours of sleep. You can't get into an airplane, a serious airplane in serious weather, without having your mind right. You can't be upset with your wife and your kids and your job and your money. You got to be able to separate that. And especially when you don't have the training for that airplane and that weather. So they took off late. The weather was iffy. He went straight over the ocean. If he would have added a little time and stayed over the land and then went there, he probably would have been okay. When you're flying over the ocean and it's dark, say it's clear. You're seeing more stars than you are the ground. So in your brain, you're thinking that sky is the ground and the ocean is the sky. You can easily get disoriented, you know. The NTSB said he didn't use the autopilot. Now, I don't know how they know that. He should have put that's an autopilot airplane. He should have had that autopilot on, and I think he did. The whole flight going there. Hand flying that airplane in the dark, over the ocean, marginal weather for an hour and a half it's a lot of work. Can it be done? Yeah. I flew a 210, which is basically the same airplane, but it's a high wing. 500 hours for a year and a half with no autopilot. Now, I was young, didn't know any better, but I mean, it really honed my skills, my thinking skills, my IFR skills, my approach skills, because I had to hand fly that thing everywhere I went. So he flew an hour and a half, tired, on crutches, upset with his business, marriage counseling with his wife, baseball game to 2 a.m, took off late, bad weather, over the ocean, the stars up here, the ocean dark, maybe except for little boats. It's easy to get like this and not know it. And as soon as you start getting like this, then you start getting like this, and you can get like this. Now, every airplane has to be certified to do 3 spins and come out. Now, if you're in a Cessna, I don't even want to let these words come out of my mouth. There's people that take these planes to 10,000 foot and just spin them for fun. They just spin them. Well, let's do 10 spins. When you do that, you twist the whole airplane. That's why most flight school airplanes, they won't fly straight, because these instructors take them up and they spin them, and it twists the whole airplane. This plane is basically aluminum Coke can, and if you just keep spinning it, the whole airplane gets you can't even see it, just a little twist, and they'll never fly straight. Plus, it's bad for the instruments. But when you're spinning this plane, the gas tanks are right here. When you're spinning a low-wing Piper Saratoga, the gas tanks are out here. Every plane has to be certified to do 3 spins, level it off, opposite rudder, and come out of it. When you start spinning these low-wing airplanes where the fuel tanks are further out, if you do more 3, 4, 5, 6 spins and you start going faster, the fuel tanks come loose and go out to the wing. And then you're not coming out. You're not getting out of the spin. I don't know if that's what happened to him, but that's the difference between a Piper and a Cessna. A Cessna is a safer airplane. The insurance is cheaper. The fuel tanks are right here. If you get into you can spin this plane 20 times. You can just keep spinning it. I wouldn't do it. It's stupid. I've never done it. I wouldn't do it if you gave me $1 million. People do it. You can't take a Piper and spin it 20 times. The fuel tanks, the centrifugal force will push the fuel tanks out to the edge of the wings, and you're never getting out of the spin then. He got close, and he was getting ready to land. And the ADSB shows he's making these turns and climbing, and at one time he was 4,700 foot a minute descent. He hit the ocean water and killed them all. Him, his wife, and his wife's sister. Now, back to the autopilot. All of my students learn day 1 to autopilot. We spend 10 minutes every lesson on that autopilot. After they get 10, 15 hours, we spend more time on that autopilot. And then I get to the point where I mess the plane up. I don't say nothing. They got to figure it out. They got to figure out how to turn the autopilot on and get out of it themselves. If I keep telling them, they're not going to learn. I mess that plane up, and I do like this right here, just look at them. After a while, they learn how to do that autopilot and get out of their self. You gotta learn, there's more to taking flying lessons than just doing this. What do I do? When you do, what do I do? You gotta learn to make decisions, your own self. I can't make all the decisions for you. So, my students know that autopilot. They know how to make a 180-degree turn to get out of a cloud or bad weather. They know how to get back to the airport. They know how to take that GPS and hit runway 36. It'll make a line going straight out. They can see that line and go to the line and turn. They know how to hit approach as a private pilot student with that autopilot. Hit approach and the airplane will come and line itself up with final. You still got to lower it down, but I teach them that. Just as a safety measure. So who do I blame? Who do I blame for JFK? As soon as I heard that crash, as soon as I heard spatial disorientation in a Saratoga, that's the first thing that came to my mind. Nobody taught him the autopilot. Hitting autopilot on and learning how to master that autopilot, that's two different things. The autopilot will kill you. I think the highest place in the United States is 14,000 foot. If you set that autopilot to go from Little Rock to upstate California, and you set it for 10,000 foot, straight and level, flying west, it'll do it perfect. It'll fly perfect. That autopilot will do you good. It'll fly perfect. Until you get to the mountains, and it's going to fly you into the mountain. You got to know how to work the autopilot. The autopilot is going to do whatever you say. You got to know how to work it, and you got to know your limitations, and you got to know what's in front of you 15 minutes before you get there. So, I'm going to blame it on the instructors. You're only as good as your instructor. You're only as good as your instructor. My students don't fail. When my students get ready for their check ride, I put them in a plane. I fly them over there. I use the same DPE. We land the plane. We go in there and I say, so-and-so, this is your DPE. He's going to give you your check ride in 3 weeks. You stay here and you have a conversation with him for 15 minutes about your check ride. And he's going to tell you what he expects. He's going to tell you what you're going to do. That makes my student feel at ease with the DPE. And the DPE already knows what he's getting when he gets Glenn Wimpy's stew. He already knows. He already knows. So then I take my student, well, what did you learn? Oh, wow, that was great. Then I take my students, talk to this guy here. He just took the check ride with this guy 3 weeks ago. And I take my students and put them with the young instructors that just got out of flight training, that knows all these little rules and FAA things that I brain dumped 40 years ago. And get them prepared. My students are prepared. Your instructor has to prepare. He just can't fly you for an hour and push you away. Oh, I got another hour towards the airline. That's a bad instructor. I blame those instructors. He had 3 different instructors in that airplane, and he didn't know enough to turn that autopilot on. He could have turned the autopilot on, called center and says, we're in some bad weather. Where can I do a VFR landing? That plane has got 4.5 hours of fuel. It was 3 people in there with only hour and a half flight. If you bring that power back a little bit, that plane will fly 6 hours if you can go that long. But that's another thing. He wasn't even on an IFR flight plan. When he took off from his home airport, he called the controller. They told him to turn, and he didn't talk to anybody. He's just flying over the ocean. He's not on an IFR flight plan. You got to be on a flight plan. The flight plan is your friend. Your autopilot is your friend. You get on the flight plan and your airspace is reserved and you got some help. The controllers, they want to help you. They're not against you. They want to help you. If you make a mistake and you say, I'm a VFR pilot and we got into some fog, can you help me get to a VFR airport? They're glad to do it. Flying over the ocean, a rich person over the ocean in a plane he bought, those rich guys will shop flight instructors to find a flight instructor that they can manipulate. If you're letting your rich client manipulate you, that's a liability, you know. JFK got upside down in his airplane in the cloud and the fogs and the bad weather with the ocean and the lights. He was there. He was fixing to land. The NTSB said he didn't use his autopilot. All he had to do was go into his FMS, his GPS, and the plane had one. Hit procedure, hit approach, pick the runway he was going to land, select it, use his heading bug to get halfway lined up, and then hit approach on the autopilot. And that would have brought him down close to the runway. Maybe he could have seen the runway. But he should have even never got to that. He should have never took off. He should have been on an IFR flight plan. He should have finished his instrument training. He's got plenty of time and money. You spend your time and your money on what's important to you. Flight training wasn't important to him. You can get top-notch IFR instructors that will come to your city. You got to pay their hotel and their food and their transportation. And they will teach you in your own airplane your instrument training in 10 days. 10 days. It's not 5 years to get that. You can do it in 10 days and be proficient at it. That's what he should have done. Rich people and their airplanes. I blame the instructor. Why did he not use that autopilot? How come the instructor didn't say, John, listen to me. You cannot fly this airplane over the ocean at night VFR. You can't do it. That part of the U.S. is notorious for fog. His instructor should have set him down and says, look, if that had been me, I said, look, I'll wash my hands of you. I'm not flying with you anymore. He'd made that trip several times, and he probably made it with the autopilot. Did he take medicine for his ankle and he wasn't thinking clear? Was he upset? We don't know. But we do know this. The airplane hit the ocean and killed 3 people. You got to finish your training. You got to be serious about your training. You got to have a good instructor. You're only as good as your instructor. You got to pick a good instructor. If your instructor's not teaching you that autopilot every lesson, you got to get a new instructor. So, what happened to JFK? Didn't use his, maybe it broke. Maybe his autopilot broke on that flight. That's highly unlikely. That's a nice airplane with a nice autopilot. That was a nice autopilot. It's just not going to break out of the blue. So what happened to JFK? No IFR flight plan, bad weather, rushing, a lot of stress, didn't use his autopilot, complex airplane, which is beyond his skills. That's what happened. He got turned around, hit the water. Heartbreaking. You have to teach rich people different than you teach your average person that shows up at the flight school. You gotta be, your student at the flight school, you gotta be 15 minutes ahead of them. A rich person that owns their own airplane, you gotta be days ahead of them. If they got their private pilot license and they got their own airplane and they got their own insurance, They'll go out there and fly that plane by themselves and try to do things that they don't know how to do. And when they crash, the FAA is going to look at their logbook. Oh, this instructor's name is in here. He taught him this. That's a legal document that can be used against you in court. So you got to think about that. You got to teach rich people that own their own airplane different than you do your regular common student. They can be a handful. A lot of times you got to say no. The young lady I told you about, that her dad wanted me to teach her. She's got 75 hours. She's looking at me all the time. What do I do? Well, you got 75 hours, 3 instructors, you solo. You should know how to land a plane without looking at me. I wouldn't teach her. I didn't teach her. I'm not teaching her. So, JFK flew into the ocean. He got turned around in the clouds and then everything. Hit the water. Didn't use his autopilot. That's what happened. The first thing I said, the main 2 words about this whole 37-minute video, autopilot. It's either your friend or your enemy. If you ignore it, it's going to ignore you. Always listen to the old bald head pilot. When you get on that airliner and you're going somewhere and everybody looks in the front, you want to see an old fat bald headed guy in the left seat. That's who you want to listen to. Autopilot.